engineering to conquer space and show to the world the superior reach and power of British technological ingenuity. The idea had first been mooted at the annual meeting of the British Association for the Advancement of Science in Bath during the summer of 1888. The Society's president that year had been the eminent engineer Sir Frederick Bramwell, and during the public dinner that concluded the meeting, he had started speculating about just how far into space projectiles might be fired. He was interested in big guns, after all, and had delivered an address on the topic to the Birmingham and Midlands Institute just 2 years earlier. While it soon became clear that no gun, however big, would be sufficient, someone suggested that something along the lines of a rocket of some kind might do the job. Gradually, the enterprise took shape. Lord Salisbury, the Tory Prime Minister at the time of the meeting in 1888, was a scientific man and was easily persuaded that sending men to the moon would not only be a scientific triumph, but that it was absolutely essential for the good of the Empire that Britain should get there first. Imperial and industrial rivals might not yet have the resources to accomplish such a stupendous task, but they would one day. It was imperative that Britain should lay claim to the moon and its resources before it fell into potentially hostile hands. As the enterprise took shape, committees were formed to deliberate over the immense task ahead. Naval architects from the Royal Institution of Naval Architects, more used to designing dreadnoughts than rockets, debated competing plans for a space-travelling vehicle. The British Association for the Advancement of Science, BAAS, and the Royal Society bickered over which institution should take the lead, although that issue was resolved with the establishment of the National Physical Laboratory in 1900. In 1879, the BAAS had deliberated whether it was economically feasible to construct the analytical engine that Charles Babbage had designed but never built in the 1840s. They had thought the cost prohibitive then, but now the machine was essential, and engineers struggled with the task of not only getting it made, but made much smaller and able to work by electricity, not steam. Chemists experimented to find the most efficient fuel, and electricians worked on the complex circuitry that would allow the crew to control the colossal space-flying machine. Resources from all over the Empire and beyond were poured into the attempt. The costs involved were astronomical. The 3 naval officers who would risk it all for the Empire were carefully selected and rigorously prepared. Only the most self-disciplined men would be fit for the great adventure. 4 days after its successful launch into space on the tip of the Victorious, the Deliverance landed safely on the moon's surface, and for the first time in history, human feet stepped onto an alien world. The landing ground had been carefully selected, an apparently unobstructed area in the Sea of Tranquility. When the 3 men stepped out of the Deliverance and stood on the moon's surface, they were prepared for anything. They were armed, of course. There was a distinct possibility that this apparently lifeless surface might still contain life, the remnants maybe of some former civilization that had degenerated and collapsed as the lunar atmosphere seeped away into space. If some degenerate life remained, then it might well be hostile. The Selenauts came prepared to prospect for potential resources as well. Was there water hidden in some crevices somewhere, for example? A supply of water would be essential if Britain were ever to establish a permanent station on the moon to exploit what mineral resources might be there. But in many ways the mission's main objective had already been achieved. The Union flag now flew proudly over the Sea of Tranquility, proclaiming to the world that the moon belonged to Britain. None of this really happened, of course, at least not in this universe, but there is still something compelling about this story. One reason for the contemporary popularity of steampunk, for example, is the sense that this fantasy of contemporary technology grafted onto the Victorian past is just teetering on the edge of reality. We can believe in Victorians with steam-driven computers, and we can believe Victorians or Edwardians travelling to space in ways we can't really imagine of their predecessors. We can picture them belonging there in ways that would be difficult to conceive a Puritan divine or a Regency buck.